Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, Fate's Passing, by Griz, Calderon. The rain came down in relentless sheets, blurring the edges of Jackson's headlights as he navigated the narrow road. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up, their rhythmic squeaking barely cutting through the drum of rain on the roof. He tightened his grip on the wheel, muttering under his breath about the storm. It was late, and he'd hoped to be home by now, but a detour had added more time to his drive. As he approached the old wooden bridge, something caught his eye through the rain-streaked windshield. A figure stood at the center of the bridge, barely illuminated by the faint glow of his headlights. His heart kicked in his chest. A woman. Her dress clung to her, soaked and fluttering in the wind. She stood motionless, her hair plastered against her face, her arms wrapped around herself as if shielding against the cold. "What is she doing out here?" Jackson whispered, easing off the gas. The car crept closer, his headlights now fully casting their light on her. She turned her head ever so slightly, just enough for him to see her face, pale and rain-soaked. Her eyes met his for the briefest of moments, filled with a mix of fear and resolve. Before he could even think to react, she stepped forward and disappeared over the side of the bridge. "No!" Jackson slammed on the brakes, the tires skidding slightly before the car came to a halt at the far end of the bridge. He fumbled to throw it into park, his hands shaking. His heart pounded as he reached for his phone on the passenger seat and shoved open the door, leaving it ajar as he stumbled out into the rain. His boots splashed against the wet ground as he ran toward the riverbank, his breath coming in gasps. "Where are you?" he called, his voice nearly lost in the storm. He reached the edge and looked down. The water churned violently, the current strong and unforgiving. For a moment, he froze, his eyes scanning the darkness, searching for any sign of her. Then he saw it. A faint outline, her body caught in the river's pull. Without hesitation, Jackson tossed his phone to the ground and dove in. The cold water hit him like a wall, stealing the breath from his lungs. He kicked against the current, pushing himself toward her. His fingers brushed fabric, and then her arm, limp and cold. Gritting his teeth, he wrapped his arms around her and fought his way back to the shore, his muscles burning with every stroke. When his feet finally found solid ground, Jackson heaved her onto the muddy bank and collapsed beside her, gasping for air. She wasn't moving. "No, no, no," he murmured, leaning over her. Her face was pale, her lips blue, and for a terrifying moment he thought he was too late. But then he felt it, a faint pulse beneath his trembling fingers. "Come on," he urged, tilting her head back and pressing his ear close to her mouth. A shallow breath ghosted against his skin. Relief surged through him, but it was fleeting. She needed more help than he could give. Jackson scrambled for his phone, slipping in the mud as he dialed with shaking fingers. "I need help. A woman jumped off the bridge. She's barely breathing." His voice broke as he gave his location, his eyes never leaving her still form. The storm raged around them, the world a blur of water and darkness. Jackson could not feel the shadow that lingered just beyond the reach of the headlights. The Grim Reaper watched in silence, his form indistinct in the foggy night. He hovered at the edge of the scene, unseen and unnoticed. For a moment, he remained still, observing the fragile thread of life hanging in the balance. This wasn't his decision to make, not tonight. He withdrew, fading into the shadows as Jackson cradled the woman, his desperate pleas cutting through the storm. The Reaper would wait. The end.